Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and The Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a 3-game slate here for Thursday night as we roll along in these NBA playoffs. A bunch of game sixes here that we will take a look at. We are going to kick things off in the Eastern Conference where the Toronto Raptors are still hanging around. 3-2 now is the series as it heads back to Toronto. So once again, no Matisse Thybulle for Philly, as we know. So we'll take a look at some of the best bets in this one, as well as all the other couple games. So do make sure you're liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we will be bringing you each and every single playoff game with a video, as well as a player props video that we'll have for you. So yeah, continue to follow along with us and head to thelines.com. That's where we have the ability for you to get our great odds checker. Make sure you're getting the best juice. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to ftpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, we got Philly -1.5 at Toronto after they were pretty not competitive in Game 5 at home. The Suns -2 at New Orleans after pulling out a big win at home to take the lead there. And the same thing with the Mavs, -2 at Utah after kicking the crap out of Utah, or maybe it was more just Utah deciding they're done with this whole playing together thing, scoring 77 points in that Game 5. But this is the spiciest game, the Sixers at Raptors now. I mean, I don't see Philly winning this one. I think it's really just a question of whether they're going to win in 7 and avoid this dubious distinction, or whether they're actually going to become the first team to blow a 3-0 lead. I don't know if this fulfills your Joel Embiid narrative that he's the real MVP, because now that he's hurt, they look like awful, maybe the worst team in the playoffs. And maybe, I don't know if it's just like he did hold them together through this residual Ben Simmons drama and how dysfunctional they are, because they are dysfunctional enough to blow this 3-0 lead. Absolutely. Look, the X's and O's are not really in their favor. When you take away Embiid, he was just tilting the whole gravity of the court in those first 3 games because he commanded so much respect. Toronto couldn't guard him one-on-one, especially with Scotty Barnes out. Well, Barnes is back, and he played 41 minutes, was a +13. And Toronto's throwing waves of 6'9" guys at Embiid and walling off Harden in the paint. They outscored the Sixers 29-11 in bench points last game. The Precious Achiuwa outscored James Harden 17-15, was a +10, Harden a -10. James Harden now is 0 for 10 on floaters in the series, shooting 36% from 3, which is the second most worst individual mark for a guy with 15 attempts. And he has more turnovers than field goals twice in this series. The Sixers have an overall 1.1 assist to turnover ratio in the last 3 games of the series. And in the fourth quarter, which I brought up last time, it's gotten even worse. They have a 0.56 assist to turnover ratio. That's just, you're not going to win any games like that. And this is something they struggled with in their final 2 regular season meetings with the Raptors too. 26 turnovers in the last 2 meetings. Lost them both, including a very low scoring game where they scored 88 at home. Same exact production in this Game 5. I mentioned last time also no OG Anunoby or Fred VanVleet when they scored 88 and lost in that game. And Fred VanVleet is still playing limited minutes. Like, he's still really hobbled, but the Raptors have enough in terms of their wing depth and the way Siakam and OG and Precious Achiuwa, Chris Boucher, now Scotty Barnes back. They're just coming at Philly in waves and shutting them down. I mean, really just forcing them into a lot of bad possessions. Whereas on the other end, Toronto's efficient, 24-8 assist to turnover ratio in that game, shot 51% from the field. And they've won these last 2 games, Josh, despite shooting 16 for 65 from 3. That's under 25%. They won this last game without a free throw advantage that some might say Scott Foster gave them in that Game 4 to try to even that up. But once again, won the rebounding battle. And yeah, I mean, most importantly, keeping Embiid to 6 free throw attempts rather than the 14 he had been getting without Scotty Barnes in there. That's sort of the barometer for the Sixers' success on offense is how many attempts is Embiid getting, meaning how hard is it for the other team to deal with him, like I'm saying, because as good as Maxi's looked and Tobias Harris at times, they thrive off the doubles that Embiid draws.
Yeah.
He's not going to draw them as much when he's hurt like this. And if it's on James Harden to win an elimination game, I'm going to take the other team every time. Not to mention Doc Rivers, who has lost 21 of his last 27 closeout games, most recently blowing a 3-1 lead when he was with the Clippers. This could be it. And it's plus 550 still if you want Toronto to win the next 2 games. Still very good juice there. You could take Philly at plus 180 to lose this one and win at home in game 7. Worth maybe hedging if you are going to take that plus 550. But how fun would it be to say, yep, I bet that first ever 3-0 comeback and it happened.
I don't know. You tell me. You're the one that told me you hit it after I think 3-1 happened before 3-2. Yeah. So so let us know, please. I'm sure you'll report back if that happens. But it does seem like it's prime for that, and it all starts with the health and the sort of reverse roles that these teams sort of took on after a really game 2 or 3. Once Embiid's injury became a factor, and Scotty Barnes came back, and then Fred VanVleet does continue to look a little bit hobbled, but you still get 3 to 4 minutes a game of peak playoff Fred VanVleet, who's just got huge cojones and loves pulling from all over, and you have to worry about him. And I think that the defense on him has been decent, keeping him sort of out of the lane. But I wonder, once again, how much is that because he's hobbled and the amount of minutes that he's not able to play? I mean, normally you'd see this guy at 40 minutes, maybe 42 minutes, 43 minutes, especially the deeper they go into the playoffs. Nick Nurse just loves to lean on that guy, and that's his man when he's out there. So but you look at the reverse and what's been going on. I mean, even Philly winning the rebounding battle in a couple of the first games in this series as well, and huge reason being Scotty Barnes being out. And then you look at the last couple games, and now we're kind of back to what we thought this series was going to be. And it's not that Philly couldn't even win this game in game 6 here. I'm not saying that they can't, but the reason that I would bet against them right now is Embiid looks hurt. And, when Embiid is off the floor already this season, we're talking about a minus 5.2 net rating for the Sixers, not close to Jokic's minus 10, but still at the same time, minus 5, without him and the way that he's playing right now, like you said. You look at the things that stand out are the difference in rebounding. Obviously, I'm talking about from the point that Embiid starts to get to be hurt, to have pretty much, like you said, a torn, at least maybe sprained ligament in a thumb on his shooting hand. Once that point hit, and coinciding with Scotty Barnes coming back, the rebounding, margin changes and just goes more heavily in favor of the Raptors. Tyrese Maxey is not able to do quite as much because of the fact that he's always standing out on the wing on an island by himself, because there's 2-3 dudes with their eyes on Joel Embiid ready to two dudes playing off of him that are ready to collapse. You can't take another one off of James Harden, so you're left with Tyrese Maxey occasionally getting open threes. Same with Tobias Harris getting open threes, and that's not happening anymore. And the 3-point disparity was going in favor of Philly for a bit, even though they are not hoisting that many, but Harden was still putting up a good percentage there at the beginning in the first game, and then everything just, like I said, you look at when Embiid got hurt, everything just goes way down, and it's because it plays off of him, where he was getting double teamed already the most in the playoffs. Actually, probably mostly because Trae Young didn't get another game, but he was up there with Embiid in terms of receiving the most double teams. He only played in 5 games, so he's not going to get as many chances to get double teamed anymore after he closed that series out. But I mean, look, Embiid's usage rate, was 5th most amongst players with a legit amount of minutes this season, 29.5% when he's out there. There's no James Harden to be found, and I don't know why people seem to think that he was just going to come out of nowhere. I mean, once he clearly couldn't use the hamstring hobbling him as an excuse for why he's not exploding and getting to the rim. That those numbers without floaters, while it's like it seems silly to some, it's a legit number, because that's his shot. If he's not getting all the way to the rim and he's not shooting a 3, he's getting a floater. Not being able to hit that means he's still forcing it even more to the rim when he's driving, and it's getting stripped. It's sloppy. Doesn't look good. I don't have much hope in them either, unless Embiid can just do what he's been doing all season, which is literally put the team on his back and go. And I don't know if this is the case for him to be MVP more than Jokic, because he's doing the same thing against a much better Warriors team. But at the same time, it's indicative of both of them. So
yeah, Harden's proving you can't just get into shape in the midst of an NBA season. That's not how this works. Like, you got to put in work in the off season. You get one day off maybe to try to ramp up, but now he's just tired because this is why KD was so pissed off in Brooklyn, right? He was like, are you kidding me? This is how you came into the season, Harden? He's looked terrible all season, and he looked good for 5 games with Philly, rejuvenated against bad competition, and now he just looks like he doesn't have the energy to play off Embiid. Let alone carry this team when Embiid needs his help, especially against a team like Toronto that I keep saying so many versatile bodies to throw at him, make a wall, dare him to beat them from 3 or beat them with a floater, and he can't do it. I would be hammering the Philly under here when I see that team total. Look, they're averaging 98 points per game these last 3. That's with an overtime in there. Their offensive rating 103.5. Like I said, barely any more assists than turnovers in that span. And during the regular season, Toronto held them to 103 points per game. And that's with giving up a ton of free throws to Embiid. The pace was 92. Obviously, we like unders in this series, but at 209, I'm not really that big on the team total. I would rather say I think Philly's going to be in there then at 105 or 104 for their team total, since this is such a close spread. And I would go under for them and expect Toronto to win. They're not getting nearly as much value as they were in Game 5, but that's because the line's correct now. And all you have to do is look at Embiid's fading points props to know what the sharps think about this. Right, he goes from 33 to 28 when the injury news comes out of his thumb. Now he's 27.5 with better odds to the under. So if we're not expecting Embiid to get 28 points, and we have so many questions about where Philly's going to find offense otherwise, like their bench is horrible. No Matisse Thybulle, who had 1 field goal on a mistaken putback, by the way. Kyrie Irving, he is not. He can't just jump in and play some of the games and produce offense or even play great defense. So yeah, Philly dangerously thin here. I do kind of get the feeling that they might blow this whole series.
Yeah, it's gonna. The only thing that I would be scared of is Embiid's heroics and him just being Superman and doing what you didn't think he could, because he's just stronger than we realize, and that's not where I'd put my money. That's I think there's a worse chance of that happening. And with that, we talk about the decrease in the ability of other guys. The only thing this scares me is Toronto's now doing what their recipe for success was from the jump, which is force turnovers, get into the transition, get into fast break, finish at the rim. And that's what they're doing. And they don't need to play in the half court, which, as we've talked about, is not very efficient and is not fun to watch. It's kind of a gross half court offense, to be honest. But it is an offense that looks amazing when you get out and go, and you have 4 to 5 guys, depending on who's playing center for them. If it's Scotty Barnes, you've got 5 guys that can get their rebound and run and are big bodied and can get to the rim. And that's what they were doing in Game 6, Game 5, big time, to get that second win. Percentage points in the paint, percentage points off turnovers, and fast break were all high for them, getting a ton of those. So you like that to continue for them with the Philly 76ers just missing a ton of shots and not having a very pretty offense themselves. So under would feel better on that Philly total, no doubt, for sure. So Nate, let's just move on to a game here in the West that is also facing a Game 6. The favorite also, winning right here. We've got Phoenix going back to New Orleans. They are up now 3-2 in Game 6. We've got a line here after they did cover in Game 5 on a pretty big spread that seemed kind of big to us in terms of how heavily they were favored over the Pellies in Game 5. But now we look at this; it's a little bit closer to 2.5 for Phoenix. And the total sits at 214.5. So, big headlines real quick from Phoenix in that last Game 5. Obviously, Mikal Bridges, the destroyer, also stepped up on offense. Cam Johnson was able to stay on the floor by stepping up on defense, probably a little bit due to the fact that he was also still kind of recovering from a couple things. And then, I think, CP3, he comes back and he has a game where he's in control of it. He just barely misses over 33.5 points and assists combined, combining for 33 total there. But still a really nice outpouring from him and the way he controlled that game. So what do you think in game 6? I honestly see it just continuing to flip-flop, to be honest, until the home teams wins out. But do you think that Phoenix can close in this game?
Yeah, now there's no spread. I kind of don't want to pick the winner. I kind of want to double down on the over, which we seemed like we were going to get in game 5 here, but Ingram and BI and McCollum just had their worst shooting performance of the series. And New Orleans was not able to come along down the stretch. They shot 14 for 41. That's 34% combined. I would be a little concerned now if Ingram's elbow, what reports you get about that injury. I mean, he hurt his elbow and his finger down the stretch, was not really available to score. And I mean, Mikal Bridges, stepping up on both ends, guarding Ingram down the stretch, and somehow CJ not able to capitalize with his improved matchup against not Mikal Bridges. I would expect the Pelicans, who have been much, much better offensively at home. I think their offensive rating 7 points better in the CJ McCollum era at home, to score. And now the total a couple points lower. I mean, we were only like 3 or 4 below the over in this last game with the Suns controlling tempo. I mean, the Pelicans can still get it done down low in this series. Even in that loss, they won the rebounding battle by 7. They had 13 offensive rebounds. They still had a 15 free throw edge, despite Monty Williams lobbying for more there. I mean, Joe Val's still a big double-double. and that crowd, that'll be at their back. I think they definitely keep scoring. And I don't see the Suns struggling too badly on the road, as badly as they did in game 5, which is why we have 2 unders in a row here. Suns went over far more consistently on the road in the playoffs last year because their defense was not as good. So that's where I would lean here in this one. And I would look at – I do lean towards the Pelicans winning. Again, if you get positive reports about Ingram and him being a go and not questionable, like legitimately questionable for this game with that elbow issue, I think – if he's a go, the Pelicans are going to force game 7 here, at which point I would take the odds for the Suns to win in 7, which definitely are still plus odds here. But I think they would get it done in a game 7 at home.
So you're saying that if you think the Pellies can win this game, but you're saying monitor the Ingram's elbow for game 7, essentially.
I'm saying I wouldn't take the Pels to win if Ingram seems hurt for game 6, right. But I think he's fine. And I think, then you can bet what I'm getting the odds right now, plus 175 for the Suns to lose this one, but win in 7. And I like the odds there.
Interesting. Yeah. I too actually just lean towards wanting to touch on the total before I get into the spread of this game, just because these performances from the Pellies at home, especially from both of their big 2, have been super impressive, man. And they seem like there's no flukes going on there. There's consistency. They're getting good shots. And a lot of it does stem from Ingram being able to get whatever he wants by shooting over guys. But he had a lot more, obviously a lot more trouble once Monty Williams decided to put Mikal on him. Like we said before that game, it was kind of like, look, that was the only thing that scared me about the total of that game. But we did like the Phoenix total at home, coming back and needing to score, getting to 112 like they did, which helped us out there. Just not that the Pellies did not come along like we thought they probably would. And at the end of the day, maybe we should have listened to our own advice that we were giving Monty, which is if you put Mikal, your best defender now, on their clearly not only best player, but the engine of their offense, because it stems from him getting ISOs and needing other guys to come double team because he can just shoot over anybody, a la the Nets and Kevin Durant. Obviously, he's not KD. Not that it matters at this point with the Nets being out, but point being, this Suns team also did do their thing on defense a lot more, which was what was really obviously haunting them up until that point. And coming back to the same point, Ingram, not only, him being a lot worse from the mid range, which was crucial for them because that was once he got his rhythm going with that mid range jumper, where he was shooting, a very high percentage before that game 6 there, or excuse me, game 5. That also led to his 3-point percentage being a lot higher, and then he just shot 1 for 5 there in games 5 without the ability to really get. He wasn't getting to the rim, he wasn't getting those points in the paint, and the mid range wasn't falling. Therefore, the 3-point, they could sort of press up on him on the 3-point line without a fear of him hitting other shots around them in stepping in, etc. So, look, Joe Val actually had a much better game, and that's something that sort of gets to you where you feel like you wasted, a really nice performance from him, shooting 7 for 11 and 17 points, and then obviously securing 14 boards, which he's done so far. Because DeAndre Ayton was really owning him, and I mean he still got his in this game, and still also was super efficient on offense, but he wasn't really controlling the paint in the same fashion. It's just that really the offense was not falling for New Orleans. I think Phoenix continues to play the offense that they've been playing, even though on the road things did get a little bit hairy for them because of the fact that once again I don't think Jose Alvarado's ability to stop Chris Paul is going to be sort of a thing. I think they had a good game. He wasn't expecting it, and the kid really got his attention, I would hope. I don't think Chris Paul has time to mess around in this series. They need to get out of it. His legacy can't afford to take this hit. So I think you continue to feel pretty good about him. His stats don't really change at home versus on the road. He's really the same player as you would expect. We don't have those player props up for him as we're recording this, but I would bet that, at -2.5. I'm not saying I'm just go ahead and picking Phoenix to win, but if I'm going to take some player performance doubles in this game, I'm looking at Chris Paul and I'm looking at things like 12 plus assists and a win for them, and figuring I can probably get at close to +200, if not maybe +165, +180 around there on my money, and I feel really, really good about that because the win is not inevitable for them, and I do think it hinges a bit upon Ingram's health, but I also think that the defense for them has unlocked a bit more, and I'd be inclined to lean towards the over for Phoenix a bit more, just similar to what we saw in Game 5, just because I think they're going to have the same offense that they had. I think Mikal Bridges knows what is needed from him right now. His usage rate needs to go up. There is no other true second banana in terms of shot creator and wing scorer outside of him. So, I think that's going to be something that becomes crucial for them. I think they can continue to pull that off on offense, and then it's going to be a matter of Ingram is healthy, they can come along. But I don't know if that's the case, and if he's going to be shut down like he was in Game 5, I don't know what the engine that drives this offense is really going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'll use the same logic you're talking about CP3 for player performance doubles. I'm not going to take the Suns to win unless I hear that like Ingram is really going to struggle to play. But I'm going to use that logic and say that the Suns are going to be able to score at a better clip. I mean, they have been scoring at a good clip on the road in the series still. It's because CP3 is setting up Ayton and McGee on a silver platter. I mean, the fact that they still outscored the Pelicans in the paint in this last game, despite that huge rebounding disadvantage, despite what Joe Val and Larry Nance have been doing down low, it's all CP3, keeping the offense on track, playing at his pace, but diming people up as much as he scores. So that's why I like the over. And you brought up that after a loss, they tended to go under at the highest rate this season. I probably should have listened to you there. Now it's 15-5 to the under after a loss, but after a win, they go over at a 60% clip. And on one day off, normal rest as they are here, 33-20 to the over. So I think on the road, with the Pelicans offense bringing it up a notch and with the Suns maintaining where they're at, the over is definitely my preferred bet here. I think, it could go either way with the result, and I'm not really going to try to bet it.
The final game on this slate here, Nate, for our Thursday night in the postseason, we've got the Mavs looking to close things out versus this Jazz team who kind of seem like they want to be closed out. We've been saying that for a bit. They did pull one out, but Luka's back. It was a complete smackdown. As you say, you almost have to try to go 3 for 30 from deep. That's very, very hard to do. Donovan was he looked a little bit hurt. He was just pulling from everywhere, just trying to force it. That's honestly the best form of offense that they've shown in the playoffs as of late. Despite Rudy, trying to take advantage of a Maxi Kleber matchup, you had a lot of Dwight Powell in this last game. So I don't know. The real question here is, Mavs -2 in Utah again here, as the Mavs will try to close it out without even having to go home. A low total, obviously 209. Once again, if the Jazz are going to fail to score 80 points, I think you'd love an under. But they are home. Their offense is much better at home. So I don't know if you're eyeing the total here, Nate, or are you looking at the line there first?
No, I can't mess with it. Can't trust them. Can't win with them. They don't. They don't seem to like each other. We said this before the series. So much for that Donovan Mitchell assist to Gobert for the winner in Game 4, which was actually his first assist to Gobert on a go-ahead bucket in like 3 years or something. Shows you all you need to know about how this team is constructed and how they feel about their future. They're ready to pack it in and give them a reason. And they will, whereas Dallas is, next to Boston, has been the best team in the NBA since the middle of January. And now they got their guy back. We said it would take one game for them to get situated with Luka back in the lineup. That's all it took. And then they came out and they played that lockdown defense and played really good complementary offense with DFS and Reggie Bullock joining Luka in the ranks of being a plus 30 out there, basically. They go 6 for 16 from three. The Mavs shot poorly otherwise as a team, but that was because the game was already out of hand from deep. And they post an 85 defensive rating. Yeah, I mean, the reason we've been fading the Jazz so consistently is because it's Donovan Mitchell and nobody else. And we love Donnie Mitchell. Like, don't get us wrong. We don't like the Jazz. We absolutely revere Donovan Mitchell. Think he's an excellent talent. That being said, him and Luka don't even play the same sport. Like, Donovan Mitchell does nothing to shift the gravity of the floor, to open things up for his teammates. I won't say nothing, but comparatively, Luka Doncic changes everything. And he's not even getting the assists, but he's just creating so much spacing for the Mavs. He's just dictating the pace since he came back. And they've just controlled this action. And you could see the frustration from Utah. The fact that game ended with Hassan Whiteside getting a flagrant, pulling Luka to the ground. That's what losers do when they've lost. So this Jazz team that everybody knows is going to get broken up in the offseason. I don't really trust them to win at home. I definitely don't trust them to score and help us out with an over here. But yeah, I mean, what I'm taking is the Mavs, which is what I've taken. I told you since before the series started, whether Luka was in or not. And now that Luka's back, they've gone away from the Kleba minutes, trying to pull Rudy away from the basket. He's pretty much split evenly with Dwight Powell. Kleba has 3 points in 38 minutes since Luka returned. Both games have gone under. So, I mean, if anything, I'm looking under, maybe under on a team total, but no, my preference is just to take the Mavs here on the money line, probably with some other results you like, and expect this series to just wrap up as it is.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's much fight left in them. I mean, we'll see. Donovan, he did have a slight tweak, right, in that last Game 5 there, where he was a little bit hurt. I mean, he came out because there was no point anymore, obviously, at one point, I believe, late in the third, early in the fourth, whatever it was. So didn't come back. There was no reason, but it also seemed like he wasn't quite himself. But point being, if you were going to target a total and you think the Jazz are going to fight for their lives, then you might consider an over just because of the fact that, Luka and the team can score. Even if they do play at a 92 pace or slower, they can still get 110 points with how efficient that they've been playing offense with him in it. I'm not going to hit that. I don't believe in the Jazz. So that over is predicated on believing in the Jazz's ability to fight. And the thing here is, look, Game 5, they're going to regress a bit to the mean upwards, even if Donovan Mitchell isn't himself. I mean, he went 4 for 15 and 0 for 7 from 3 to contribute to that horrible 3-point. But Bojan is their second scorer, and Bojan was missing in this game. In 27 minutes, he did not hit a field goal. He went 2 for 3 from the line. He was a minus 37 while he was on the floor, only outdone by Donovan's minus 38. And so his inability to hit anything is going to get you 77 points. Jordan Clarkson came in, did his thing in some garbage time, whatever. I don't know where they're going to turn. I mean, it is really, in terms of their total in this game, it is really a matter of if Bogey's hitting shots at this point. Jordan Clarkson, whatever, we can rely on him for maybe 20. And then Donovan's just a question mark right now because of the fact that I think he's forcing it. He seems frustrated. And obviously we all know what the sort of internal strife is right now for them. Look, Luka also is back. And that's really, at the end of the day, like, we could just squash any sort of negative storylines about the Jazz with plenty of positive storylines about what Luka does against the Jazz. And this season specifically, now faced him 5 times, over 30 points a game, 11 boards, 6.5 assists. They're 3-2 in those games with him. But yeah, they're winning the last couple, and in these playoffs, it really is Luka time. I mean, as we saw, and he played well. He got his points. I would say that Jazz defense was incredibly porous, as we've said. There's no defense at the top of the key on the wings. It's just get by them at will, get open threes and kick outs, whatever. Just avoid Rudy and you're fine. And then if you can, get him in a blender at times. And guys like Jalen Brunson were ending up with him one-on-one. And he has, if you look at his matchups in this game, he has so many different guys that he's guarding for like a minute and a half at a time because they're just hunting him on the switches if they're running pick and roll at all. And then he's just left on an island too often against Luka. He's guarding him for like a minute 45 in this game, which he's never supposed to be guarding him. So the fact that he's guarding him for almost 2 minutes means that they're just going after finding ways to get him on Luka at will and handling things that way. So total is not worth it. A tiny spread in Utah, fine. You expect Utah to play a little bit better on offense. They definitely are going to score. They're going to score more than 77 points at home. Where we always talk about how much better they were on offense this season. But I don't think it's going to be enough as things stand. And those 2 points are great. If you were smart like Nate and took plus 230 before Luka even stepped on the floor for the Mavs to win the series, you're feeling great about it now. But I don't know that you're really looking at any of these series or markets to try to find some juice at this point for the Mavs anymore.
No, but there's some player props you can look at. Dorian Finney-Smith, who we nailed last time, was well over 18 PRA in the third quarter of a blowout, and now we're looking at a closer game. He's so integral to what they do, and integral to keeping Donnie in check. I mean, he's had a couple spike games, but like I said, coming into the series, very poor numbers against the Mavs, especially this season with Dorian Finney-Smith, who's an all first team defense snub, I guess. One of the more versatile guys out there, and Bullock able to just switch on to Donnie at times too. Both those guys. Look, there's just so much fight in the Mavs. These teams couldn't be further apart in terms of their chemistry and how much they pull for each other. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned Luka in the playoffs. This is maybe the easiest task he's had, considering he went up against those Clippers in his last series. I mean, now he's got Royce O'Neal and he's got Rudy lurking at the rim, but he was able to just kind of maneuver around him in the last couple games, get his points. Rudy, who we didn't really talk about, I mean, he's bounced back a little bit individually with a defense rating of 111 the last 2 games, 17 points, 13 rebounds, but he's still on -7 in his 30 minutes per game in those spots. Not able to punish the Mavs as much as he did in that game 4 when they stuck with Kleba a little too long. Now they can play Dwight Powell along Luka, and they can still get good shots. Yeah, because he is that partner for Luka.
Yep.
And yeah, the last thing, I mean, the Mavs, it's not like they struggle away from home. They win games they're expected to win. They're 40-10 straight up as favorites. Yeah. Average margin 8 points per game, 15-4 as road favorites this year. So small spread at -2. I think you just take that and expect them to close this out.
Yeah, and just to add to that, on the other side, the Jazz have the worst straight up record, against the spread record after a loss this season, showing probably some a lack of mental fortitude. 10-23 against the spread, failing to cover by 4 points in those games when they're coming off of a loss this season. So. Why not continue to look for it? I think some player performance doubles sound like a great idea. DFS, Dorian Finney-Smith, plus 270 for 6 boards and a win. I do like him to get around 5 or 6 again. So there's plenty of things to like in there, man. If you head over to FanDuel, Luka double and a win plus 178. So because this spread is pretty small and there's the likelihood that the Jazz have a quarter or two where they look like, a team that doesn't want to go home yet. I think the Mavs, their fortitude is way stronger, and you can look at those player performance levels to get you a little bit more juice, since this spread is pretty small. But that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page, as we will continue to bring you each and every playoff game with a video, as well as these player props that will continue to roll along with you. So until we see you next, happy betting.